Ollie, looking just about as futuristic as mine. Your session's recorded as well, so if you've got any colleagues or friends that can make it today, we'll post it in the relevant Slack community channels, and we'll send it out via email as well to everyone. Hey, Gyson, how you doing? You want to check your mic, see if you're
Mic test. Can everyone hear me?
check one,
Good.
loud and clear.
We can hear you.
Unless it's that Tanya that I hear.
It is Tanya. Hi, how you doing?
Good. Cool. And then we have Jacob as well. You can say hello. Hey, Jacob.
Hey everyone, good afternoon
Awesome.
or good morning.
Or good evening. Across a few time zones today. So we've got a lot to cover, so we'll get into it. I'm sure people will filter in as and when. First of all, thank you very much, of course, for taking time out of your days to join us today to learn a little bit more about Slack lists, but also some amazing updates from last week from Dreamforce. For any of you that don't know, Dreamforce is Salesforce's largest conference and event of the year. It's held in San Francisco, and three of us on the call today were at Dreamforce. So we're going to give you a bit of the live updates from last week. Cool. So we've run this across pretty much all the communities that are present in Asia Pacific in terms of Asia and also ANZ. So I look after the Singapore community. Gyson is community lead for Manila. So Gyson, do you want to say hello?
Hi everyone. So I'd like to formally introduce myself. My name is Gyson Gascon. I am Brid's Slack software and implementation engineer, and I'm currently based here in Manila, which I am also a Slack community leader of. And super excited to guide everyone to the Slack list part of today's session.
Great. And then maybe next I can see on my list is Tanya. Let me just say hello.
Yeah, hi all. So I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia. Happy to be home again after the last crazy week in San Francisco. But I'm looking forward to learning a bunch today too. I feel like there was so much I could not absorb at all. But thanks for co-hosting with us, Lawrence. It was good to have that invitation.
No worries. And then Jacob, finally, do you want to just say hello?
Hi everyone. Looking forward to today's session. I'm the community leader for Sydney, based out of Sydney as well. And looking forward to the session today, and hopefully you can get some tips and tricks from lists and some of the new features coming out from Dreamforce.
Awesome. Great. So a little bit of housekeeping. As mentioned, there's a chat in the side feature. If you've got any questions, feel free to throw them in there. If they're very burning, feel free to come off mute and also ask them there as well. So just a quick one about Slack community. I mean, you've all signed up via probably finding a Slack community link or joining one. But if you haven't already, as I say, I'm just showing you the Singapore page here. But we have a dedicated community space and a community workspace, which has loads of great insights into what's going on in your local chapter. So we have local chapter channels for Melbourne, Sydney, Manila, Singapore, and also there's a forum as well, which we can go and look at next. So this is our members Singapore channel. So if you haven't already joined your local channel, please do. But then also make sure that you just explore the Slack community workspace. It's a fantastic knowledge repository. I think there's nearly 15,000 people in the workspace currently, and it's ever growing. And also, there's a great way for you to learn Slack skills as well. So many people don't know, but there's a Slack certification program you can take. And there's 3 paid certifications, but there's also something called Slack Skills, which is free. And most of those just take a couple hours to do, ranging from just Slack etiquette guides all the way to how to build Slack workflows and more complicated tasks. So make sure you have a look at those. So a little bit about Brid, our company. So we are a Slack consultancy and advisory services business. So you've got 3 of the Brid team on the call today, based all over this region. And yeah, both myself and Jacob used to work at Salesforce and Slack before setting up this business a year ago. And we've heavily been involved in all of community events and leading them around the globe. So we're going to start off with a little bit of a level setting about Slack. So as many of you probably know and love the platform already, but as it's evolved, it's pretty much almost a different platform to what it was, let's say, a year ago. So we're seeing much more in terms of functionality, buttons, widgets, canvases, lists, etc. So these are great sessions to be able to help you get the most out of Slack. And we're going to focus to the start of this on lists, which is a feature released maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and talk a little bit about what lists is before handing it over to Gyson, where hopefully you can also follow and build one of your first Slack lists yourself. So Gyson's going to take you through Slack lists in a demo, and feel free to, while he is demoing Slack lists, to get, if you have dual screen up, get lists ready in your Slack instance, and you can follow him as we go. So first of all, introducing Slack lists. Why was it created? What is it? Slack lists is basically a project management tool which is natively embedded inside of Slack. So maybe I'll ask the first question just to get everyone's kind of fingers at the ready. Start typing now. Has anyone used lists? So in the chat, on the chat function, say yes or no. Okay, I'm going to start off. Get a little pulse. So it's yes, yes, no. Seems to be a 50-50. We're using it lots. Okay, got some lists maniacs here, not fully optimized. Okay, great. Awesome. Great. So hopefully we can debunk a few lists myths. I was waiting to mess that one up as a bit of a tongue twister. But in general, why Slack has released this tool is because, whilst, communicating in chat is great, sometimes you've got more complex projects where you're missing out on notifications, or you need something that's a little bit more rich in terms of its functionality and the UI to be able to manage projects. And of course, a lot of collaboration projects get done in Slack. So teams need a better way to do that, to centralize the information, get all those notifications in one place, and have an intuitive UI where you can use a project management tool in the flow of work where you're already collaborating, communicating with your peers. So we want, and the Slack team wanted this to be easy to use, and to be able to also connect it to some of the automations that you would have already in Slack. So this is where Slack lists come in. So essentially, as I say, it's a project management tool, a lightweight project management tool that can connect your teams to be able to essentially get projects done quicker within Slack. Obviously, saving you time by having everyone aligned in one place, having a rich project management tool which allows you to obviously assign tasks to certain people, and to have that embedded natively within Slack in terms of not only within your flow of work where it might be, for example, in a channel, but also starting to embed lists into the other features. So if you haven't used Canvas already, that's another great tool. You can actually have a list embedded within a canvas, so somewhat kind of like list canvas inception there. But once you start using these tools together, they become really powerful. So within lists, as I say, you can start getting things done quicker by being able to collaborate and tag your team members in, progressing work on quicker and sharing it with not only internally, but also externally as well. So we're a business that runs, hundreds of projects all around the world. Obviously, most of those are in Slack, and we use lists to track our projects with our customers. We use a canvas to track how we're getting along, and then we use a list to track how the project is going. So you just not something that you just have to use internally, but you can use it externally as well. So what it allows you to do is to collect and approve and triage requests across your business or across the projects that you're running, and to manage teamwork. What are some of the key use cases that we see lists being used for across the business, how we use it, but how we see our customers use it. Obviously for project management, help requests or triaging. So let's say, for example, you could create a list for laptop requests within your organization. If you're into sales or productivity, or you've got tools like Salesforce or a CIM, you might want to use a list to help you to build what's called a close plan, so you can effectively manage those steps to close a deal within your organization. And then again, the collaboration you can see coming through Salesforce and Slack here, with incident management, or let's say if you're using Service Cloud or another tool, you might want to create an incident management list or workflow. So driving alignment within your team across projects, moving faster to help requests, planning. Lists can be as complicated or as simple as you like. I have a list, for example, which is literally a to-do list. So yeah, to-do list just for yourself or for you and potentially one of your reports or your team, as well as maybe a complex list that would go across your whole business. And as I said, you can start building more bespoke lists. As I say, we'll take you through when Gyson starts the demo, some of the out-of-the-box templates. One of the best things about Slack lists is that there's a bunch of templates for you to get going with already, but then you can start creating them for your business and then obviously replicating them. So for example, you could standardize a close plan for your business so that everyone who is engaging in a deal with a customer has to do a certain steps before they actually should close that deal. And like I said, you can start to bring things like incident management and stuff into Slack lists as well. So one of the key things people, I guess, always ask me, or when Slack lists was released into the Slackosphere, I guess, is, can I replace my existing project management software with Slack lists? And I think there's no definite yes or no answer to that question. And I'll probably rely on Gyson to while we're doing the demo to also go deeper into this. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask them. But from a broad overview, and I guess from the Slack official party line, would be that Slack lists is a lightweight project management tool natively embedded within Slack to help your organization to do, I guess, basic project management tasks. And what we mean by that is, there are obviously tools that I've mentioned here on the right, such as Jira or Asana. Jira in particular, Slack lists is not currently at this stage able to replace probably a lot of the complex project management software, particularly if you're, let's say, engaging in DevOps, project management use cases where potentially your Jira is connected to multiple of other tools, or it's involved in, a pipeline to deploy something in production, for example. So Slack lists is kind of there to get yourself going onto using project management. We would say that maybe at the more simpler end of some of these tools that you're using them for, let's say if you're using monday.com and your marketing team are just using it to build out a very simple project management list to, for example, arrange a marketing event. maybe not something as complex as Dreamforce, but something else like that, you might be able to, for example, either complement or use Slack lists to do that. Great. So that's a little bit of a background into Slack lists. As I say, we'll post all this information and insights later. So you've got a whole bunch of different talking points and starting points for you to start thinking about Slack lists. But we would probably want to do it justice by seeing it in action. So I'm going to pass over now to Gyson and stop sharing my screen, who's going to walk you through Slack lists inside Slack. And as I say, if you are following and if you've got dual screen, if you want to follow and actually build a Slack list alongside Gyson, then feel free to do that. And I'll also be monitoring the chat feature, Gyson, as you're doing it.
Thanks, Lawrence. I noticed that most of everybody in here have already used lists in the past, but for everyone who hasn't even touched Slack lists, and I'm hoping that by the end of this session, you'll be more confident and ready to use Slack lists to let's say organize your projects and tasks efficiently. So let's get started right away. And before we jump into creating lists, I want to make sure that everybody has Slack open in their own devices. You can open this on your desktop or browser. This is going to be a hands-on session, so having Slack ready will make it easier for you to follow along. So I'm going to go ahead and give everyone a brief moment to have their Slack ready while I share my screen.
Gyson, I can't see your screen yet. And we've lost you on mute. Are you able to share your screen, or do I need to give you?
There we go.
Oh,
Can everybody see now?
Oh, good. We can see.
Alrighty. So if everyone is all set, let's go ahead and begin finding Slack lists in your workspace. So normally we have Slack list, the Slack list icon in the sidebar, but if you don't see it in your sidebar, no worries. I'll go ahead and show you how you can quickly surface it. So you can go ahead and click on the three dots at the bottom of your sidebar, and then click the customize navigation bar. Now, if you don't want to service it, that's totally fine. It will show up in this menu either way. But if you are going to surface it, you can click here and then tick the box next to the list, and it'll appear in your sidebar. Once that is visible, click on the lists icon to head over to the lists homepage. Now, this is where you'll find all of your teams lists, or you can also see in here the ones that you have starred, and those that have been shared with you, and the ones that you have created. Now let's go ahead and create a new list together. So look to the top right corner of your lists page and click the new button with the plus icon. So you have two options in here. So you can either click on list, or if you already have like a CSV file, you can choose to import it. If you have like tasks ready in a spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and click list. Now from here, you can choose to either start from scratch, like from a blank list. You can choose to, again, import CSV, or you can choose from a variety of templates. Now let's take a moment to explore some of the templates. We have here like a project tracker. Now, if you are like a project manager, this would be ideal for tracking the progress of your team's ongoing projects. We also have here like a feedback list. Now, this is like a great tool for gathering and even organizing feedback from your team, maybe from your customers, from your clients. If you're working in the IT department or engineering department, we have a bug tracker in here, which is specifically designed to log and manage bugs or issues that your team is currently working on. You can also turn the bug tracker into like a feature request tracker. And then here we have like a classic to-do list, which is, as you may all know, is a simple way to keep track of your own task or keep track of your team tasks. There's also party planning, help requests, backlog for more specialized needs. Now, for today's exercise, we're going to go ahead and start with the project tracker template. Now, click on that to get it created. And then once you have created your list, go ahead and name your list, or you can leave it as it is. Now, next, let's talk about how to like add items into your list. There's two ways on how you can do this. So you can click the add item button on the lower section of the page to start adding new tasks or items into the list. Alternatively, you can click the button right in here to add a new row, and then click directly on each field in the list to input data, or click on an existing item to edit the data on the spot. Now, if you are a big fan of automation like me, there's also the option to set up a workflow that triggers a form. Now, you can do that in here in the Forms button in the upper right portion of the window. So what this will do is that once someone fills out the form, the workflow will automatically write the responses into the list. Now, this is perfect for use cases like, let's say, bug tracking or even collecting feedback. Now, let's try entering some task names. Let's go ahead and add an item. So entering task names, now this could be something like sending out client reports, or another example would be preparing project presentation. So you can enter a short description of the task as well. Status in here, let's say this list item is relatively new. You can set it to not started, and then we have a rating in here. So you can use this field type to identify the urgency or priority level of the task. You can, again, enter a short description of the task. You can choose the team members that will be responsible for each task, and even assign the due dates. Now, once you have created your list, you'll want to start assigning tasks or items. So it's important to remember that team members won't be notified when a task is assigned to them unless they have access to the list. Now, to make sure that the right people have access, we can configure the access settings in the share button in the upper right corner of the list window. Now, you can either handpick, specific team members, like I'd like to share this list with just me and Lawrence, or you can have, allow everyone to, in your team, to view or modify the list. If you only want to share it with, with members of a particular channel, you can also restrict access to just that channel. You can also choose to allow either viewing only, or give the members permission to modify the list. Now, beside the share button, you'll see a star icon in here. Now this is just a way of marking it as, like a favorite, and which will be, visible in your starred list, as we have seen earlier. Beside that is a drop-down menu where you can see like the details, if you want to copy the list URL, if you want to duplicate the list, or even download like the list into a CSV file. And if you find yourself not needing that list anymore, you can also choose to delete the list. All right, going back to the list items, again, you're not limited to the basic fields like task names and due dates either. So you can add custom fields in here to, let's say tailor fit them to your specific needs. So for example, as we have seen earlier, the rating field to indicate, that like the priority level of each task. And we can also have another field type in here, which like again, like this message field type can add links to Slack messages. This is helpful for you and your team can quickly refer back to important discussions related to that task. And one of the few things that I love about this feature is that Slack list automatically includes, useful information fields like what we have in here. You see, the created time and last edited time is a great way to keep track of when changes were made into that list or on a list item. And then we have a created by and last edited by, so you always know who's like managing specific updates. Next is the next feature I want to highlight is the ability to change how your list is displayed. So at the top of your list, you'll see like a configuration button in here. Now this allows you to kind of customize your view. If you prefer a more visual layout, you can switch to like a Kanban board style view where items are displayed as cards. You see here that I can see the cards or the list items are sorted by the status. I can see the items that are in progress, the ones that are blocked, and the ones that are done, for example. You can also filter your list items by specific fields. So for example, if you want to see only tasks that are assigned to you, you can click again the configuration button, filter by assignee or people, depending on your label, and then you can select whichever user you want to see their tasks. And then if you ever say if you ever find yourself going into this specific view every time you go into your list, you can save your preferred view in here and conveniently select it from the view selection.
Great.
I guess that's
Gyson, I know we didn't practice this one, but would you be able to just show with the shareable link, maybe a link like a list inside a canvas, or maybe a chat if you've got one?
yeah, sure, definitely. I can choose add in here another field type, let's say message. Then canvas. Now, say for example that I have this discussion with Lawrence about the projects or about the tasks that will be assigned to us. I can, copy again the URL of that message and then paste it into the relevant field. And it will conveniently show up like a preview, which you can, have a quick, like a preview of the discussions that involves that task. You can do the same with canvases as well. So let's take this canvas as an example. Then paste it again into this view. Notice how it kind of autofills that field with the canvas title.
Nice. Anyone got any other questions? We have one question from Josh. Can we share Salesforce records directly into lists? Right, ask Tanya and or Jacob and or Geisen on this one. But I believe this is maybe covered later, right, with Salesforce records. Am I right,
That's a
Tanya?
good question, Josh. Personally, I'm not sure. I haven't been able to try or have seen an instance where a Salesforce record is pasted or directly into the list.
And just quickly to build on that, Josh, so Slack have not released any APIs for updating and managing lists yet. So I would imagine this would be coming down the line. So at the moment, it would appear that it would need to be manually sent in, but we can take it on and come back to you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, Geisen, I'll take back control if you want to stop sharing, because I can't share until.
Sure. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Geisen. All right, so I'm just gonna get back to the presentation. Cool. So for the next half, or however long it may take us, we're going to give you a little bit of insight into some of the exciting announcements that were broadcast last week. So a little bit of housekeeping, like some of the things that we're going to show you today are potentially in either development or not fully released. So like if you are going to make a purchasing decision in Slack based on one of these, like make sure that you speak to your Slack counterparts and representatives to be fully up to date with what's ready to go now versus what's coming down the line. I've put in here a link to the Slack keynote. Honestly, myself, Tanya, Jacob were all there live in San Francisco, and it's all on YouTube. So if you have, I believe, around an hour to spare, I would strongly recommend that you watch the Slack CEO and the keynote. There was many of the things that we were going to cover today are gone into in depth in the Slack keynote. You can also watch a bunch of other stuff either on YouTube, or there's something called Salesforce Plus, which I guess is like the Salesforce streaming service. And honestly, like Tanya mentioned, even though we were at Dreamforce, I'm looking forward to this week catching up on probably 100 things that I wasn't able to see, because at any one point there was probably 5 sessions that I wanted to be at once. So yeah, make sure that you go and look at the Slack keynote Dreamforce, and we'll try and do our best to summarize some of the highlights. But this is probably one of our personal highlights for all of us. So this is Denise. She's the CEO of Slack. She took over the reins about half a year ago. And she's very supportive of the Slack community. Probably see a couple of faces that you recognize here. Mine's somewhere in the background there. Tanya, are you here somewhere? Is that you? Yeah, let's see that. So this is most of the global community leaders. I think there's about 60 or so around the world, and we're all wearing our very cool Slack community hoodies. So some other events that happened. Tanya, maybe I'll pass over to you. Maybe you can explain what it is you're doing here on the left, and then some of the other stuff you participated in.
Yep, so that was on the second day, and I know, Lawrence, you were part of that as well. We did an interview on our AI persona, and I think there was 4 different options that you could have tested out at, and the maximalist I was not. I was the one a level down. But we did an interview just about how we're using AI at work, how we're being supported to learn, and yeah, just how it's helping with our productivity. So that's what that interview was about there. And I love that ice image in the center there. That was from the Slack global reception on Tuesday night. Yeah. You're on mute there, Lawrence.
I've just put a link to that AI persona quiz. So if any of you guys want to take the quiz and find out what kind of AI persona you have, feel free to check that out in the chat as well. And then, yeah, on the right, you can see myself and Jacob. That's Parker Harris. So for those who don't know, Parker is one of the founders of Salesforce. So he founded Salesforce with Mark Benioff. And he was CTO of Salesforce for a long number of years, and he's now recently come to be the CTO of Slack. So just goes to show how serious that's Salesforce is taking Slack, and I think some of what you'll see today are directly the product enhancements that are coming from Parker and his vision between both Slack and Salesforce and Slack in general. So the key announcement at Salesforce was around Agentforce. So what are agents? So we've all heard about AI for probably hundreds of times over the last year or so, but where Salesforce feels like they are greatly positioned is to be able to build AI agents with the wealth of knowledge and data that is contained within Salesforce ecosystem, but also wider deploying them within Slack. I think a lot of AI, as we all know, can be sometimes quite conceptual, or we're just, using it in a silo in ChatGPT as we're in the flow of work. And what we're seeing here is that I think there's an understanding that, what better place to interact with, any of your AI agents than Slack, because Slack, just like we covered in the section when we talked about project management, it's like, well, if I'm managing my projects in Slack, maybe I would want to talk to my AI bots or agents. I think we're now calling them, we're not allowed to call them bots anymore, where the best place to do that would be in Slack. So Salesforce is building out a number of its own agents that you'll be able to kind of interact with based on if you have a certain number of Salesforce plans or Salesforce products or services. But I think what's also super interesting is that they're not just wall gardening the whole thing, and they're bringing third-party software tools to be able to build them, and also third-party, developers or businesses like ourselves, which to develop agents as well. So another kind of key, I think very key, but small footnote branding change is that the Slack app store is going to actually become the Slack marketplace now. So we all know probably the Slack app store, the place that we go to get our Google Calendar app and get reminders about when not to miss meetings, etc. But it looks like they're really going to further develop the Slack app store, and it's going to be rebranded as Slack Marketplace. And within Slack Marketplace, not only are you going to have the apps, which we all know and love, which are ones that can be created by companies, but also by yourselves, but it's also going to be a place where you can actually get your AI assistants or agents as well. So what does an agent look like? What's it going to look like, and how would you use it in the flow of work? So here's an example of an AI agent, Agentforce in this case, interacting with me as I'm in the flow of work. Let's say, for example, I'm a salesperson and I've got an opportunity date that I want to understand what the next steps of that. I don't want to keep on having to go back and forward to Salesforce to constantly be asking questions about, when is a specific date for that opportunity to close, or what I might need to do next on it. So having an agent there means that, in natural language, I can kind of query some of that data. So can you tell me more about that opportunity? And then it comes back with those dates, and then what are the recommended next steps for that opportunity? And so what it will do is go and look at all the contacts that we've got, and start offering recommendations, for example, on what I should do as next steps. And as you can see from here, what it's reminding me to do on that is to send an email to the customer, and using all of that information. What it's allowing us to do is to actually draft the email as well. It's about helping us to provide context, because I think we've all experienced that with using tools like ChatGPT, etc. Context is king, right? So whilst you're constantly having to put context into it, the great thing about having a tool like Agentforce, which would be having Slack and also Salesforce natively connected to it, instead of me having to constantly kind of have this back and forth with a GPT to say, please draft an email, and the email is going to Tanya, so add her name, and then add her email address, and then add all of the intricacies about that. All of that will be pulled from the disparate tools that where it's created. A lot of those being Salesforce, right, which contains a huge wealth of CRM data. Now the next part is they've released a list of third-party agents as well. So alongside Salesforce building its own agents, they are actually the ones for now is Adobe, Asana, Workday, for example. So you can see here for the Adobe example, let's say you're going to creative brief for a project, you might want to query that. Also, for example, for Workday, instead of for example, having to constantly switch between the Workday platform and Slack, if you had a helpful Workday little agent or helper with you, you are able to obviously get a lot of things done, like leave requests, etc., right there in the flow of work. So yeah, honestly, the whole theme of Dreamforce was on agents. So I would say that there's really tons and tons of stuff out there for you to look at. So definitely check out YouTube and Salesforce Plus as well. So for those that don't know already, Slack has released it is an additional add-on, but an AI native embedded AI feature called Slack AI, different to Agentforce, as in terms of, you can think of agents and Agentforce as like all the Slack data plus the data outside and a tool like Salesforce or Adobe, etc. Slack AI is very much AI contained within the data that you might have within Slack, so such as like summarizing, for example, a really long thread, or summarizing hundreds of channels at once, and that's what we are using Slack AI for today. So they're using Slack AI to actually help to go one step further in the flow of work. So for example, if anyone here has used a workflow before, they know that a workflow usually is somewhat a semi-manual process. You don't have to necessarily be a developer to build a workflow, but you do have to know some logical steps to build those. And what Slack is trying to do is to democratize that even further, so that anyone who wants to build a workflow can do. So here what you're seeing is a representation of using Slack AI to create a workflow. So here it's remind my team to post a daily stand-up message at 9 a.m. And instead of actually having to go in and configure that workflow manually, Slack AI is actually going to do that for you. So I believe at the moment, I read that this is only within the native steps within Slack. So if you do need to have like customization, and you want to pull in like obviously something that's not natively available in your workflow builder steps, obviously it won't work. But if you want to do simple workflows like this, and you have Slack AI, you'll start to be able to do that. The next cool feature that's been released is something called Huddles Notes. If anyone has used Huddles before, they know that it's a pretty cool feature to be able to very quickly jump on with your team, jump on with in the flow of work, having a quick, conversation about a task or topic. But much like we have, video transcribing software for a lot of our calls on Google Meet, etc., you're going to be able to do that for Huddles. So Huddle Notes are going to be default turned off. You can make sure to remember which way around that went. But what it will allow you to do is, let's say, for example, me and Tanya after this wanted to have a quick huddle on how we thought this went, and to share, for example, the document so that she can post it out to her teams. We can actually choose to turn on Huddle Notes recording. So not just do we have the huddle what we shared in the huddle. So if we shared, like, for example, text, if we shared messages, if we shared a document, but it also would actually record, our conversation as well. So, when you're live being recorded, you probably want to make sure that you're, being careful with what you're saying, but also I'm sure it's pretty useful to record, those conversations where you're having very free-flowing conversations about topics within the organization. Cool. Well, I'll pass over to Tanya here, who's going to talk about something that I mentioned slightly earlier, which is Salesforce channels which are coming into Slack.
Yeah, so if you already have Slack Sales Elevate, if you're already a customer for this feature is already available to you. And so this is Salesforce channels, and it brings your CRM data, like your opportunities, your cases, or any custom objects directly into Slack. So this integration will help to streamline decision making by providing a complete view of the customer data without having to toggle in between Slack or Salesforce and back again. So with these record channels in Slack, you can quickly strategize, follow up, and track your customer journeys efficiently. I'm looking forward to being able to use this feature. We don't have it yet, but it's definitely something I look forward to. And here's just a little recording of how it looks.
Yeah, sorry, the recording's quite grainy. I couldn't find anything better than his, but like Tanya mentioned, essentially every record that you might have in Salesforce, now has a official kind of record mapped channel, and as you can see here, it comes pre-built with a number of native functionality, such as like the ability to move a stage forward, which is every salesperson's nightmare, having to constantly move stages forward and backwards. So being able to do that within Slack. What we're really starting to see, and again, I think a lot of this is being driven by Parker Harris, as we mentioned, who's previous CTO of Salesforce, is they're bringing in a lot of that functionality, day-to-day work that would have to be done in Salesforce into Slack, and the Slack UI becoming the front face of Salesforce, particularly for those Slack first Salesforce customers. So as Tanya mentioned, we are definitely excited about these as well coming down the line. Cool. I think this is the final one that we'll mention, and then we'll kind of leave it over to everyone else for some questions if you've got any, but also homework to watch that Slack keynote and have a look at Salesforce Plus. But what else they're doing is templates which can be created to kind of your use, or channels which are essentially templated channels that have lots of pre-built functionalities and features. So the way to look at this is like, remember our list feature, like if at a high level, you have a Slack list, and then there was a template within a Slack list, and then, okay, we can roll that template out. But what about, like a channel, for example? A channel probably has a template. We all have the same issues, whether you're a technology business, a PR company, or if you're an FMCG business, right? We all have similar channels probably that we want to create, and we want some help with from Slack. So if we think about it here, we can go here and start to actually create a new channel. So for example, just try and slow this down a little bit. We've got like a marketing channel. And what you're seeing here is that what's coming soon to Slack, is tabs that will be at the top of your channels. So when we create, for example, this new channel, we go back here, and instead of when we create a channel from scratch, we're saying, oh no, we're not just creating a channel, we're going to create a marketing channel. And within that marketing channel, for example, it's automatically going to create a canvas for you, which is a marketing canvas. It's automatically going to create a Slack list for you, which is a marketing list. And it's going to potentially build a bunch of workflows in the background as well. So, really powerful if you can imagine that, what Slack is doing is using all of its knowledge from, the millions of Slack users that it's got all across the world, and the research it has on, what's the, perfect template of a channel for a marketing campaign, for example. And rather than you having to think from scratch each time to create that channel, create a list within the channel, create a canvas within the channel and workflows, etc., Slack is going to do that for you. So yeah, very much looking forward to seeing Slack templates as well being rolled out. Cool. So we've got a couple more minutes for some questions, but yeah, we can answer some. Yeah, Envin, yeah, you will be able to, if you have Slack Sales Elevate, and you have, this is currently available now, you can edit records directly from Slack in Sales Elevate. Yeah, does anyone have any other questions?
I would like to see a show of hands of people who are actually or do have access to Elevate. There's a raise hand button, or if you want to pop something in the chat, just out of curiosity.
I think maybe it's just us.
I think we're all looking forward to be having access to that at some stage.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see it, and so we're prepared when that day comes.
Cool. All right. Well, if there's no more questions, then I'll thank everyone, give you 8 minutes back of your day, and yeah, hopefully you've learned a little bit about today's session, and we'll send out this into the Slack channels, but also probably as an email as well, where you'll be able to get the links, etc., for watching the Slack keynote. But other than that, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.